Hello everyone, welcome back to Chinmoyee's biology channel. So we are back with a new episode of human brain. So in the previous episode we have already discussed about neuron, reflex action and synapse. So today we are going to discuss about different parts of the brain as well as their function, that is forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. So please don't skip the video in the middle. Full video will be very informative and we will be dealing with all the parts of the brain and their functions in detail. So let's get started. So we are back with human brain. So is reflex action the only function of the spinal cord? So we have told in the previous episode that reflex action is a function of the spinal cord. So is it the only function of the spinal cord? Obviously not, since we know that we are thinking beings, so we do think a lot, and thinking involves complex mechanisms, right, and neural connections as well. So it involves neural connections as well as complex mechanisms. So these are concentrated in the brain, and which is coordinating center of the body. Now the brain and the spinal cord, they constitute the central nervous system, or in small we can say that the CNS is combined of the brain as well as the spinal cord. So they receive information from all parts of the body and integrate it. So they are receiving the information, they are integrating all the information, and we also think about our actions: writing, talking, moving a chair, clapping at the end of the program. So these are examples of voluntary actions which are based on deciding what to do next. So we are thinking, we are receiving the information, we are integrating that in our brain, and we are thinking how to act on it. So actions are being thought by the brain. So it's a complex process, and then the action is being decided, that whether we are clapping to or we are running, we are doing any other movement, or we can say writing or etc. So these are all the voluntary actions. So the brain has to send some messages to the muscle, and this is the second way in which the nervous system communicates with the muscles. So the nervous system is communicating with the muscles. The communication between the central nervous system and other parts of the body is facilitated by the peripheral nervous system. So peripheral nervous system, what does it consist of? Central nervous system, we told that it is consisting of the brain and the spinal cord. So peripheral nervous system, it consists of the cranial nerves arising from the brain and the spinal nerves arising from the spinal cord. So it is made up of the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves, right? So cranial nerves and spinal nerves, they are forming the peripheral nervous system. So the brain thus allows us to think and take actions based on their thinking. So whatever we are thinking, the brain is integrating all of that, and it is helping us to act on that basis, right, based on that. And this is accomplished through a complex design with different parts of the brain. So these parts, which is complexly designed, from which different actions we are performing, it is responsible for integration of different inputs and outputs. We are going to learn this today. So what are the different parts of the brain? So there are three such major parts of the brain, namely the forebrain, the midbrain and the hindbrain. Okay, so now the first we will be dealing about the forebrain. So before that, just we will see the diagram once of the brain, and then we will come back to the description and the functions of each brain. So let us move on first to the diagram of these three parts of the brain. Now here we see the human brain having three parts: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. So in the forebrain, this is the cerebrum, the first part. This is the cerebrum, the thalamus. This one is the thalamus part, and this one is the hypothalamus part, right? So these are the three parts of the forebrain: cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus. Now next comes the midbrain. So this one is the midbrain, and the hindbrain consists of the pons. This is the pons, the medulla oblongata and the cerebellum. So this one is the cerebellum. This one is the middle oblongata and this is the pons. Okay. So now we will be dealing with the functions of each and every part of this brain. Now in this brain only, here we can see the pituitary gland, and here this is the cerebral cortex. So these are the cerebral cortex part. This is the cerebrum, this is the thalamus, and this is the hypothalamus. Now forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain we will discuss now their functions and their role in controlling our action in our body. So let's move on. Now you're back with the functions of forebrain. So what is the forebrain doing? The forebrain is the main thinking part of the brain. So we have told you the region, that is the cerebrum, the hypothalamus and the thalamus. So it has regions which receive the sensory impulses from various receptors. Separate areas on the forebrain are specialized for hearing, smell, sight and so on. So there are separate areas of association where this sensory information is interpreted by putting it together with information from other receptors as well. So some receptors are taking it from hearing, from smell, from sight. They are integrated, then the action comes. So as well as the information that has already been stored in the brain, and on that only it acts. Okay, based on all this, a decision is made how to respond to the information. It passed on to the motor areas which control the movement of voluntary muscles, for example our leg muscles. Suppose we are hearing a loud sound, we are seeing that an earthquake has happened, then seeing the earthquake, all the visionary responses, all the senses, all the hearing impulses, they are being put into the forebrain, which is integrating all the things and it is sending it to the motor areas. Then our leg muscles are working on it, and the voluntary action that we are running away from the site of earthquake, that we know that severe earthquake has happened. So all these things are being perceived by the brain, and our muscles are working when the information is being processed and passed on to our motor areas. Is it clear to everyone? I think I have made it very clear to all of you how it is working. Now, however, certain sensations are distinct from seeing or hearing. For example, how do we know that we have eaten enough? The sensation of feeling full is because the center of the brain is associated with hunger, which is a separate part of the forebrain. So this is the central part of the brain. It is another part of the forebrain itself. So it is associated with hunger as well. Okay, so this part of the forebrain which is associated with the hunger part is a separate part of the brain, and it is located in the center. Is it clear? So, hypothalamus, which is located in the central part of the brain, this is a part of the forebrain itself, but it is related to controlling the hunger, the sleep patterns and all. So this is the role of hypothalamus. So we will be studying the function of forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain in details that I'll be taking in the next slides. Before that, we will just have an overview of all the parts of the brain. But in each and every part function you don't have in this class. Might be in higher classes you will be having the function of each and every. Now we will just together we will study the forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain, and we know that all these parts are related in that part itself. So we will move on to the next part now. Now study the labeled part of the human brain. We have seen that different parts have specific functions. Can we just find out the function of each part? So we will just try to find out the function of each part, and whatever is there in your curriculum, we will just discuss that. Now let us look at the use of the word reflex that we have already talked about in the introduction of this lesson itself. Our mouth waters when we see food without our meaning to, our hearts beat without our thinking about it too. In fact, we cannot control these actions easily by thinking about them even if we wanted to. So do we have to think about or remember to breathe or digest food? So do we have to remember that we have to breathe while sleeping, we have to breathe when we get up, when we are working? No, it's not like that. That after we have eaten, we have to digest our food. No, we have not to think like that. So In between the simple reflex action that change the size of the pupil and the thought of our actions, such as moving a chair, there is another set of muscle movements which are not controlled under our thinking. So many of these are involuntary actions and they are controlled by the midbrain and the hindbrain, right? So the forebrain, they are controlling the voluntary functions of our brain. They are controlling our hunger. They are controlling our sleeping patterns. They are controlling the how to move the chair, how to act in response to any reaction, in any response to any what we can say, the things we are seeing, we are observing, like that. But there are midbrain and hindbrain which are under not our control. So these are involuntary actions, like including blood pressure, salivation, vomiting, are controlled by the medulla in the hindbrain. We have seen that in the hindbrain, pons, medulla, cerebellum is there. So medulla is responsible for vomiting, salivation and all, and blood pressure also. These are involuntary things. Okay. Now think about the activities like walking in a straight line, riding a bicycle, picking up a pencil. These are all very fine actions, right? So these are possible due to that part of the hindbrain which is called cerebellum. So cerebellum is helping you to do the fine action. So riding a bicycle, you need the balance, you need the posture to be maintained. So posture, maintenance of your body, equilibrium and all. And then you are picking up a pencil. If you're picking up a pen, you need to write in a coordinated fashion, pick it up, hold it. So these are all actions of the cerebellum. So it is responsible for the precision of voluntary actions and in maintaining the posture and balance of the body. Imagine what would have happened if these events failed to take place if we were not thinking about it. Is it clear? Now each and every function we will read in details in the next slides. So what are the forebrain functions? The forebrain functions are mainly they are processing the complex cognitive activities, right? Sensory and associative functions, voluntary motor activities, receiving, processing the sensory information, thinking, perceiving and understanding the language. So these are the forebrain parts, cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus. They are mainly dealing with these functions. Okay, voluntary motor activities, receiving and processing the sensory information, thinking, perceiving and understanding the language and all. So these are the function of the forebrain. Now we will move on to hindbrain. Now, what are the functions of hindbrain? Hindbrain is controlling the lungs and the heart. It is mostly regulating the involuntary actions like the heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, sneezing, swallowing and all. I have already told you that it is relating with the involuntary actions of the body, controlling the sleep-wake cycle, giving rise to dreams, maintenance of balance and equilibrium, maintaining the homeostasis by working with the hypothalamus. So these are all the main functions of the hindbrain. So I told you just now that if you are riding a bicycle, when you are taking a pencil and writing it with a balance, and also it is maintaining the homeostasis by working with the hypothalamus. Now the sleep-wake cycle is also very important for your body, which is related by the hindbrain. All the involuntary activities like the heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, sneezing and swallowing are all under the control of the hindbrain. Now, what are the functions of the midbrain? Midbrain consists of the center of visual and auditory reflexes. It is involved in the processing of the visual as well as auditory information. So whatever you are hearing, whatever you are listening, that is auditory and visual information is being processed or in the midbrain. It regulates the eye movement and the pupil dilation. It is involved in regulating the muscle movement and motor control. However, together with other parts of the brainstem, it controls the vital autonomic functions, that it is involved in regulating the pain, mood, breathing and alertness, etc. So these are the main prime functions of the midbrain as well. So please make it clear, make it thorough, and please go through all the functions of the brain parts and learn it with proper label diagram, so that whenever you are getting it in your exams, it will be very easy and very clear for you to discuss about the functions of each brain part. So now we will move on to how the brain is protected and the last bit part of the brain. So we'll complete it today itself. So please don't skip it and stay till the end. Now, how are these brain tissues protected? How are these tissues protected? A delicate organ like brain, which is so important for a variety of activities, they need to be carefully protected, right? So, the body is designed in such a way that the brain sits inside a bony box or a skull or a cranium, and the brain is contained in a fluid-filled balloon which provides further shock absorption. If you run your hand down in the middle of your brain, you will feel a hard, bumpy structure. This is the vertebral column or the backbone which protects the spinal cord. So the backbone bumpy structure is protecting your spinal cord, and the bone is protected by the cranium or the skull. So how does the nervous tissue cause action? So far we have been talking about the nervous tissue, how it collects the information, sends it around the body, processes information and makes decision based on certain information and conveys decisions to the muscle for action. So how does the nervous tissue cause action? So it is processing the information and it is sending it to the decisions to the muscle for action. In other words, the action of the movement is to be performed by the muscle tissue, and it will do the final job. The brain will not come and do the final job. It is sending the action to the muscle tissue which is doing the final job. So how do animals move? When a nerve impulse reaches the muscle fiber must move. How does a muscle cell move? The simplest notion of movement at a cellular level is that the muscle cells will move by changing their shape so that they can shorten, that is contraction and relaxation of the muscles. That will help these muscles to move. The changing of the shapes can help the muscles to move from one place to another. So the next question is, how do muscle cells change their shape? The answer must lie in the chemistry of cellular components, right? Muscle cells have special proteins that can change both their shape and their arrangement in the cell in response to the nervous electrical impulses. Okay, so when this happens, new arrangements of these proteins give the muscle cells a shorter form. So this nervous electrical impulses, we can say that both the shape and their arrangement is being changed. These proteins present within the muscles, they help in changing the shape of the muscle. So this in higher classes you will be reading about the actin and the myosin pigments in the cells, muscle cells. Okay, so remember, when we are talking about the muscle tissue in class 9, I think you remember that muscle tissue what we spoke about in chapter 9. There we have spoken about different kinds of muscle, voluntary muscles and involuntary muscles. So based on what we discussed so far, what do you think is the difference and between these two would be? So just here we are relating the nervous tissue with the muscle and we are bringing the muscle to action. In the previous class, we have already studied about the muscle tissue, and here we'll just discuss a few questions, and then in the next episode, we will be dealing with the coordination in plants. And for that, you need to subscribe to my channel so that whenever I'm posting the next lesson, you'll get the pop-up, you'll get the update, and you will continue your learning the lesson in a continuous method as I'm teaching. So here, write these answers. This is your homework. And you take your answer book, write what is the difference between reflex action and walking, and what happens at a synapse between the two neurons, which part of the brain maintains the posture and equilibrium of the body. I've discussed all of that. And how do we detect the smell of agarbatti or incense stick? And what is the role of brain in reflex action? Very easy question. Just take your answer book and finish it off. And please do subscribe. Stay tuned for the next class where I'll be teaching you about the coordination in plants. So goodbye and thank you all for listening to my videos patiently. And don't skip in between. As you know, I'll be teaching many informative things in the middle also. Stay tuned. Thanks a lot.